John Miller straightened his tie and took a deep breath. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber loomed before him, their polished surface reflecting the stars visible through the vast dome overhead. Next to him, Olivia Grant checked the data tablet one last time. "Ready, Ambassador?" she asked quietly. "As ready as I'll ever be," John replied. "Earth is counting on us." The doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, representatives from over 200 alien species sat in rising tiers of seats that circled a central speaking platform. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange that John's mind struggled to make sense of their forms. The chamber quieted as the two humans walked to the center. A tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms rose from the highest tier. "The Council recognizes the representatives from planet Earth, Sol System," announced the alien in a voice that seemed to echo directly in John's mind rather than through his ears. "You may present your petition for membership." John stepped forward. For 3 years, Earth had prepared for this moment after first contact with a Council exploration vessel. 3 years of sharing technology, learning about galactic politics, and proving that humans were ready to join the interstellar community. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," John began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I bring greetings from Earth and its 8 billion citizens. We come seeking friendship and cooperation among the stars." For the next hour, John and Olivia presented Earth's case. They showed holographic displays of human art, music, and scientific achievements. They explained how Earth had overcome its violent past and united under a global government. They offered Earth's unique perspectives and resources as valuable additions to the galactic community. When they finished, the Council chamber remained silent for several long moments. Then the representatives began to speak among themselves, their voices a strange mixture of sounds, clicks, and telepathic impressions that the human translators struggled to keep up with. Finally, a thin alien with gray skin and large, dark eyes stood. John recognized the delegate from Axoria, one of the oldest Council species. "We have heard the petition from Earth," the Axorian said. "Now we shall vote." A holographic display appeared above the chamber floor, showing the tally as each representative cast their vote. John felt his stomach sink as he watched the red marks of rejection far outnumber the green marks of acceptance. "The vote is complete," announced the Axorian. "By a clear majority, the Council rejects Earth's petition for membership." "On what grounds?" Olivia asked, unable to hide her shock. The Axorian tilted its head in what might have been pity or contempt. "Your species is too unpredictable. Your evolutionary development is immature. Despite your claims of peace, your history shows concerning aggressive tendencies. Your biological and psychological profiles indicate high adaptability, but low stability." "We've worked for years to prove ourselves worthy," John argued. "We've met every requirement in the membership guidelines." "Guidelines are merely the minimum standards," replied another alien, this one resembling a large mantis. "The Council must also judge the intangible qualities of potential members. In this, Earth has been found wanting." The blue-skinned alien spoke again. "The Council's decision is final. Furthermore, Earth is now designated as a quarantine zone. No Council species may engage in direct trade or technology exchange with humans until such time as your species demonstrates suitable progress." John felt a cold anger rise within him. "And how long might that be?" "Perhaps 1,000 years, the Axorian said. "Perhaps never. Time will tell." The journey back to Earth was quiet and tense. As their ship approached the blue-green planet, Olivia finally broke the silence. "What do we tell them?" she asked. John looked at the world below, at the civilization that had reached for the stars with hope and optimism only to be rejected as unworthy. "We tell them the truth," he said. "The Galactic Council has made their choice. Now we'll make ours." As their ship descended toward the United Nations headquarters in New Geneva, John knew that humanity stood at a crossroads. The path forward would not be as part of the galactic community they had hoped to join. Instead, they would forge their own way among the stars. 5 years had passed since the Galactic Council's rejection. Snow fell gently outside the windows of New Geneva's Grand Assembly Hall, where representatives from every nation on Earth had gathered. The room buzzed with a nervous energy as Catherine Young, the newly elected president of the forming United Earth Coalition, approached the podium. She looked out at the faces before her: Chinese, American, Russian, Nigerian, Brazilian, and dozens more. Never before had all of Earth's leaders agreed to unite under a single government, but the stars had given them a reason. "My fellow humans," Catherine began, her voice clear and strong, "we gather today not in defeat, but in defiance. 5 years ago, the Galactic Council deemed us unworthy of joining their community. They called us unpredictable and aggressive. They labeled our home a quarantine zone." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Yet in this rejection, we have found unity. For the first time in our long and often troubled history, all nations of Earth stand together. We signed this charter not because aliens told us we should, but because we choose to. The United Earth Coalition is born today, not from fear, but from hope." The assembly erupted in applause. After centuries of conflict, humanity had achieved what once seemed impossible: a true global government with a single purpose: to reach the stars on their own terms. 6 months later, Dr. Alan Rodriguez wiped sweat from his brow as he studied the alien device. His lab, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, housed the remains of a Galactic Council scout ship that had crashed in the Arizona desert 15 years earlier. The Council had demanded the wreckage back, but Earth kept it hidden, claiming it had burned up completely. "Any progress?" asked Dr. Samantha Wright as she entered the lab with 2 cups of coffee. Alan nodded, taking a cup gratefully. "I think I understand how their faster-than-light drive manipulates space-time. Their approach is elegant but needlessly complex. We can improve it. The Council would say our minds are too primitive to improve their technology," Samantha said with a small smile. "Then our primitive minds will prove them wrong," Alan replied. Together, they worked day and night with a team of the brightest scientists from around the world. The Frontier Initiative, funded by the combined resources of all Earth nations, gave them everything they needed. No expense was spared in humanity's race to the stars. 1 year later, on a clear July morning, the prototype vessel Defiance sat on a launch pad in the Gobi Desert. Its sleek hull gleamed in the sunlight, hiding the revolutionary technology within: the first human-built faster-than-light drive. Captain Laura Evans checked the final systems as her crew took their positions. Below in the control center, Alan and Samantha watched nervously alongside United Earth Coalition leaders. "Engine core stable," reported First Officer Peter Kim. "FTL drive reading normal." Laura took a deep breath. "Control, Defiance is ready for launch." "You are cleared for departure, Defiance came the response. "Good luck and Godspeed." The ship rose silently, its gravity engines leaving no flame or smoke. Higher and higher it climbed until it was just a dot in the blue sky. "Preparing for FTL jump," Laura announced. "Coordinates set for Alpha Centauri." "May I remind you," Peter said with a grin, "that the Council said FTL travel would be beyond our capability for at least a century." "Let's prove them wrong," Laura replied. "Engaging FTL drive in 3, 2, 1. The stars seemed to stretch, and then, with a flash of light that briefly outshone the sun, the Defiance vanished. 11 days later, the ship reappeared in Earth orbit. The entire planet celebrated as Laura's voice came through on all channels. "United Earth Coalition, this is Captain Evans of the Defiance. We have successfully visited Alpha Centauri and returned. The path to the stars is now open." In New Geneva, John Miller watched the celebrations on television. In his hand, he held the rejection letter from the Galactic Council. With a smile, he tossed it into the fireplace and watched it burn. Humanity had taken its first step toward forging its own empire among the stars. The red sun of Proxima Centauri cast long shadows across New Horizon, humanity's first colony beyond the solar system. 23 years had passed since Earth's rejection by the Galactic Council, and much had changed. Paul Bennett stood on a hill overlooking the main settlement, watching workers construct the newest dome. As colony director, he took pride in what they had built here on this once barren world. Already, 3,000 people called New Horizon home, with more arriving on each transport from Earth. "Beautiful view," said a voice behind him. Paul turned to see Lisa Chen, the colony's chief engineer, climbing the hill to join him. "Gets better every day," Paul replied. "The terraforming is ahead of schedule in the Southern Valley. We might see the first open-air crops next year." Lisa nodded, then handed him a tablet. "You need to see this. My team found something while digging the foundation for the new power plant." Paul looked at the images on the screen and frowned. "Are those structures?" "Ruins," Lisa confirmed. "And they're old. Much older than the Galactic Council, according to our dating methods. Whatever civilization built them was spacefaring at least 50,000 years ago. Have you told Earth yet? Sending the data now. But there's more." Lisa took back the tablet and pulled up a different set of images. "We found technology inside. Still working technology." Paul's eyes widened. "That's impossible." "That's what I thought too. But look at this." She showed him video of a metal sphere floating above a pedestal, glowing with a soft blue light. "It's some kind of power source. More efficient than anything we've ever seen. More efficient than anything the Council uses, based on what we know of their tech." "The Council," Paul said slowly. "Do you think they knew about this place? About what was here?" Lisa shrugged. "Maybe. The star charts they shared with us before the rejection had this entire system marked as uninhabitable and of no interest. Seems like quite an oversight now." 3 days later, on the other side of the colony, Dr. Eric Foster carefully extracted a data crystal from the ruins. His hand shook with excitement as he placed it into the reader his team had built based on symbols found on the walls. "Do you think it will work?" asked his assistant, Amy Wong. "Only one way to find out," Eric replied, activating the device. The air above the reader shimmered, and suddenly they were surrounded by stars. A three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Points of light pulsed at various locations, many in systems that the Council had never mentioned to humanity. "Look," Amy whispered. "These must be other sites like this one. Other places where this ancient species left their technology." Eric nodded, his mind racing. "And if I'm reading these symbols correctly, some of these worlds have resources that don't exist in Council space at all." Meanwhile, several light years away, the survey ship Pathfinder drifted silently at the edge of an unmapped system. On the bridge, Captain Daniel Jackson studied the sensor readings with growing excitement. "Confirmed, Captain," said his science officer, Rebecca Mills. "The planet shows massive deposits of element 217. If the Council charts were complete, they would have claimed this system centuries ago." Daniel leaned back in his chair, considering the implications. "It's almost as if someone deliberately kept this information from being recorded, like these resource-rich systems were being saved for later. Or hidden," Rebecca suggested. "But from who? And why?" Before Daniel could answer, Communications Officer Kyle Peterson called out, "Captain, we're picking up a signal. It's not human, and it's not from any Council species we know about." "Source?" Daniel asked, suddenly alert. "The fourth planet in the system. It's artificial, sir. I think someone's calling to us." Daniel took a deep breath. "Open a channel. Let's see who else is out here in the places the Council doesn't want anyone to go." As the Pathfinder moved toward the mysterious signal, back on New Horizon, Paul Bennett received a message from Earth. The United Earth Coalition was officially designating the ancient ruins as humanity's most critical research priority. Whatever secrets the forgotten civilization had left behind might prove to be humanity's greatest advantage in a galaxy that had rejected them. The first foothold among the stars was proving more valuable than anyone could have imagined. Commander Nicole Harris adjusted her uniform as the airlock cycled. After 3 tense days of careful communication, this would be humanity's first face-to-face meeting with the Varrocs, an insectoid species that had also been rejected by the Galactic Council. Remember, she told her team, they consider direct eye contact a challenge. Keep your gaze lowered until they click their front legs. The airlock opened, revealing 3 tall, mantis-like aliens with iridescent exoskeletons. Each stood on 4 legs, with 2 sets of arms and compound eyes that shimmered with an intelligence that felt alien yet familiar. "Greetings," Nicole said, keeping her eyes down. "We thank you for agreeing to meet with us." The tallest Varrocs clicked its front legs together. "The pleasure is ours, humans. We have watched your species' rapid expansion with great interest." Nicole looked up, meeting the alien's gaze. "We have much to discuss." 6 months later, the first human Varrocs trade agreement was signed aboard the United Earth Coalition Station Harmony orbiting New Horizon. Trade Minister William Parker shook hands, carefully, with the Varrocs representative, while cameras recorded the historic moment. With this agreement, William announced, "We established the Mutual Prosperity Zone, a framework for free trade outside Council regulation." The Varrocs representative clicked in agreement. "For 200 cycles, the Council excluded us for our chaotic market practices. Yet they fail to understand that innovation requires chaos." News of the alliance spread quickly. Within a year, ships from 3 other non-Council species arrived at human colonies, seeking similar arrangements. Earth's fleet grew from dozens to hundreds of vessels as trade routes expanded. Free ports emerged in systems the Council had never bothered to claim, becoming bustling centers of commerce. On New Eden, Earth's 7th colony world, Governor Steve Jackson read the message from the Galactic Council with growing anger. "They have the nerve to warn us against fraternizing with unstable elements," he asked his advisor, Linda Carter. Linda smiled thinly. "I believe the appropriate response was sent by President Young. Earth will choose its own friends." Steve nodded. "Has the Varroc shipment arrived?" "Just docked. 50 tons of rare minerals in exchange for our agricultural products, and they brought representatives from the Brel Collective, another species the Council has kept at arm's length." "What's their story?" "The Brel are expert geneticists. The Council found their biological research ethically concerning, which probably means the Brel were better at it than the Council species." Meanwhile, at the edge of human space, the trading vessel Venture drifted in a nebula, meeting with a smuggler from Council space. Captain George Russell waited in the cargo bay as the alien ship docked. The alien who emerged was a Navorian, a Council species known for their 6 eyes and philosophical nature. This one looked nervous, constantly checking behind as if expecting pursuit. "You have the items?" George asked. The Navorian held out a small case. "Council technology. Forbidden to share with quarantine species. Yet here you are, sharing it," George observed. "Why?" "Because the Council grows stagnant," the Navorian said. "They reject new ideas and new species out of fear. Many of us now question their wisdom." George handed over a container of Earth's finest coffee beans, now worth more than gold in certain Council worlds. "Seems like rejection by the Council might be the best thing that ever happened to us." As the Venture returned to human space, a Council patrol vessel observed from a distance, but did not interfere. Its captain sent a routine report: human trading activities expanding. Recommend increased monitoring. The report was filed and forgotten in the vast bureaucracy of the Galactic Council, whose members still believe humanity would remain an isolated curiosity for centuries to come. They failed to notice that Earth now had diplomatic or trade relations with 15 non-Council species. They failed to see that humanity was building not just colonies but alliances. They failed to understand that rejection had only made humans more determined to succeed, and to help others who had been rejected do the same. In the shadows between the stars, a new power was rising. Dr. Gregory Martinez wiped sweat from his forehead as he made final adjustments to the shield generator. 20 years had passed since humanity's expansion beyond Earth began. Now, in a research facility orbiting the gas giant of Titan Prime, human and Varrock scientists worked side by side. "Power levels stable at 120%, said Kazit, his Varrock's colleague. The insectoid's mandibles clicked with excitement. "This shield design is 40% stronger than Council standard." Gregory nodded. "And it uses 30% less energy. The ancient ruins on New Horizon gave us the theoretical basis, but your people's understanding of crystalline structures made it work." On a nearby view screen, they watched as a test drone fired energy weapons at a small satellite protected by their new shield. The shots splashed harmlessly against an invisible barrier. "The Council would never have allowed this cooperation," Kizit observed. "They keep species separate to maintain control of technology." "Their loss," Gregory replied with a smile. "Our gain." 3 months later, in orbit around Proxima Centauri, scientist Michelle Johnson floated through the zero-gravity design lab of the New Horizon shipyards. Holographic displays showed the plans for a new class of human vessel, smaller, faster, and more adaptable than anything the standardized Council fleets could field. The Proxima archives changed everything, she explained to visiting officials from Earth. The ancients understood that ship design should adapt to the species using it, not the other way around. She gestured to a hologram of a Council destroyer. "Their ships are all built to the same template, regardless of which species crews them. Inefficient and inflexible." Then she motioned to the sleek design floating above them. "Our ships are built around human strengths, our adaptability, our problem-solving under pressure. This vessel can operate with a crew of 12 or 200, can land on a planet or remain in space for years." One of the officials, an older man with gray hair, studied the design closely. "How soon until it's ready?" "The first 5 are already under construction," Michelle answered. "The Pioneer class will be operational within 6 months. At the edge of human space, near the border with Draxian territory, the colony transport New Beginning sent out a distress call. Pirates had attacked the lightly armed vessel as it carried families to one of the newer colony worlds. Before the pirates could board, 6 ships appeared on the transport sensors. They weren't the boxy, practical ships of Earth's defense fleet, but something new and sleek, moving with incredible speed. "This is Admiral Frank Thompson of the United Earth Coalition," came a transmission to both the transport and the pirates. "You are in protected space. Stand down immediately." The pirate leader laughed. "Our sensors show your ships are half the size of ours, human. You are outgunned." "Final warning," Thompson replied calmly. When the pirates opened fire, their weapons splashed harmlessly against the new shields. Not a single shot penetrated. Thompson sighed. "Target their engines only. No casualties if we can avoid it." His ships fired precision strikes that disabled the pirate vessels without destroying them. In less than 3 minutes, the battle was over. Later, as the pirates were taken into custody, the transport captain approached Thompson. "Those aren't standard Earth ships," he observed. "I've never seen anything like them." Thompson smiled. "New design. Just finished their shakedown cruise. How many more do we have?" "Not enough. But soon." 2 weeks later, 3 Draxian warships, the military enforcers of the Galactic Council, attempted to blockade a human supply route, claiming humans were violating Council territory. They expected an easy show of force against what they believed were inferior ships. Instead, they encountered a fleet of the new Pioneer vessels. When the Draxians fired warning shots, the human ships didn't even register shield damage. "This is impossible," the Draxian commander said as his sensors showed the readings. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. Admiral Thompson opened a channel to the Draxian flagship. You are in the sovereign space of the United Earth Coalition and our allies. We suggest you reconsider your position. Without firing a single shot in return, the human fleet forced the Draxians to retreat, sending shockwaves through the Council. Humanity had not only expanded beyond expectations, they had leapfrogged Council technology. The rejection that was meant to contain humanity had instead forced it to innovate beyond all predictions. The Grand Hall on New Horizon was filled with representatives from 24 different species. Elizabeth Howard, Earth's chief diplomat, stood at the center of the room. It had been 30 years since the Galactic Council rejected humanity. Now, Earth stood at the heart of something new. Today, we formalize what has been growing for years, Elizabeth said. The Independent Systems Coalition is no longer just an idea, but a reality. She held up a simple document, written in all 18 languages of the member species. This charter declares that all sentient beings have the right to self-determination. No species may claim superiority over another. We stand together, equal in our diversity. The Varrock's representative clicked his approval. For centuries, the Council told us our ways were too chaotic. Today we prove that chaos and order can exist side by side. A representative of the Gora, massive beings with stone-like skin, rumbled in their deep voice. The Council called us too slow-minded to join their ranks. Yet they come to us when they need buildings that last millennia. One by one, each representative spoke of rejection, of being deemed unworthy by the Galactic Council for reasons that now seemed small and petty. And one by one, they signed the charter. The Independent Systems Coalition was born. 6 months later, on the agricultural world of New Idaho, Governor Susan Clark stared out at dying fields that stretched to the horizon. A mysterious blight was destroying the wheat crops that fed billions across multiple worlds. How bad is it? She asked the scientist beside her. Without a solution, we'll lose 80% of the harvest, replied Dr. Benjamin Foster. And not just here. The blight has appeared on 3 other worlds. Susan closed her eyes briefly. The Council. They've experienced similar crop failures in their space, Ben said. They haven't found a solution either. Then we'll find one ourselves, Susan declared. What do you need? Within days, scientists from across the coalition gathered on New Idaho. Among them was a delegation of Thraxi, plant-based beings who could communicate with vegetation on a cellular level. The Council had rejected them as too alien centuries ago. In a hastily established lab, Ben worked alongside Thraxi scientist Lori. Her vine-like appendages gently touched the infected wheat. The plants are afraid, Lori explained. They fight an enemy they cannot see. Can you help them understand what's happening? Ben asked. Lori's leaves rustled in what humans had learned was a thoughtful expression. Perhaps, but we need to give them strength first. For weeks they worked, combining Thraxi understanding of plant consciousness with human genetic engineering. When the solution finally came, it was elegant in its simplicity. Not a cure, Ben explained to the coalition representatives, but an adaptation. The modified wheat no longer sees the blight as an enemy, but as a partner. They can grow together. The results spread across coalition worlds faster than the blight itself. Within months, harvests were saved. New Idaho's wheat fields turned golden again. Reports came in that council worlds were still struggling with crop failures. Their rigid approach to genetic modification had prevented the kind of creative solution the coalition had embraced. On Earth, President Roy Adams met with the Interplanetary Council in the rebuilt United Nations building in New Geneva. The video screens showed representatives from all 17 colony worlds. The Independent Systems Coalition now includes 24 species and 43 inhabited star systems, Roy announced. Trade has increased 300% in the last 5 years. Our combined scientific knowledge has advanced medicine, agriculture, and space travel beyond what any single species could achieve alone. An aide handed him a message. Roy read it and smiled. I've just been informed that 3 former Council species have formally requested to join our coalition. They see our prosperity, our innovation, and our freedom. They want to be part of what we're building. He looked around at the faces of human leaders from Earth and her colonies. 30 years ago, the Galactic Council rejected us. They said we were too unpredictable, too aggressive, too immature. They meant these as insults. We turned them into strengths. Outside the building, ships from a dozen different species filled the skies of Earth, a visible reminder that humanity had not just survived rejection. They had thrived because of it. On the Galactic Council's central world of Axoria Prime, Councillor Dren paced nervously in his private chamber. Reports from across Council space filled his screens, none of them good. 6 more member worlds have asked to open trade with the Human Coalition, his aide reported, and 3 are threatening to leave the Council entirely if we refuse. Dren's gray skin paled further. This cannot continue. The Council has stood for 10,000 years. These humans have existed among the stars for barely 40. Yet their influence grows daily, the aide said. Their technology now equals or exceeds our own in many areas. Their economic zone expands while ours stagnates. Outside, through the crystal windows, Dren could see protesters in the streets, citizens of Council worlds demanding reforms, greater freedoms, and open exchange with the Independent Systems Coalition. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic quarter of New Horizon, Ambassador Julia Montgomery welcomed a nervous visitor to her office. The Trilexian scientist looked around constantly, as if afraid of being seen. "You can speak freely here," Julia assured him. "This building is shielded from surveillance." "I have spent my life researching quantum mechanics," the Trilexian said. "But the Council restricts what questions we can ask, what experiments we can run. They say some knowledge is too dangerous." Julia nodded sympathetically. "And you disagree?" "Knowledge itself is never dangerous, only how it's used." The scientist placed a data crystal on her desk. "My team wishes to continue our work here, away from Council restrictions. There are 15 of us." "The Coalition would welcome you," Julia said. "Science thrives on freedom of inquiry." This meeting was one of dozens happening across Coalition space. Council scientists, artists, philosophers, all seeking asylum to pursue work deemed too radical by their increasingly fearful government. Near the edge of Council space, the ancient star Betelgeuse had been showing signs of instability for centuries. Council scientists had assured everyone it would remain stable for thousands more years. They were wrong. The star erupted in a massive stellar event, not quite a supernova, but devastating nonetheless. Radiation and stellar debris threatened the Council world of Mira, home to 6 billion beings. Admiral Richard Taylor of the Coalition Rapid Response Fleet received the emergency signal while on patrol. Without waiting for orders, he directed all 30 ships under his command toward Mira. "This is a Council world," his second-in-command, Captain Alice Brown, pointed out. "They've refused our help before." "People are in danger," Richard replied simply. "Politics can wait." The Coalition fleet arrived 3 days before the Council's own evacuation ships. Richard opened a channel to the planet's government. "This is Admiral Taylor of the Independent Systems Coalition. We have transport capacity for 1 million beings and medical facilities for the injured. We're here to help." After a brief hesitation, the Miran governor responded. "We accept your assistance, Admiral. Thank you." For 2 weeks, Coalition and Council ships worked side by side to evacuate as many as possible before the radiation front hit. The rescued Mirans watched in awe as humans, the species they had been taught was dangerous and unpredictable, worked tirelessly alongside other Coalition species to save lives. On Earth, President Samuel Wright addressed the United Planets Assembly about the crisis. "Today, we don't see Council citizens or Coalition citizens, only people in need. This rescue operation represents the best of what we stand for: cooperation across boundaries, valuing all sentient life, and extending a hand even to those who once rejected us. Back on Axoria Prime, the council chambers erupted in chaos as news arrived that 1/3 of their member species had now formally requested to join negotiations with the coalition. "We cannot stop this," one elder counselor admitted. "Perhaps we should not try." Councillor Dren, who had voted against humanity's membership 40 years earlier, stared at the latest reports. The species he had dismissed as too aggressive was now leading the largest rescue operation in galactic history, saving the very people who had rejected them. For the first time, he wondered if the Council had made a terrible mistake. 50 years had passed since Earth's rejection by the Galactic Council. On this historic day, the streets of New Geneva were lined with beings from over 40 different species. They watched as a sleek diplomatic vessel bearing council markings descended through Earth's atmosphere. President Maria Collins stood on the landing platform, flanked by representatives from every human colony and coalition member species. The ship landed silently, its ramp extending to touch Earth's soil for the first time in 5 decades. Supreme Counselor Zex Terrell of the Axorians emerged. He was old now, his blue skin faded to pale azure. As a junior counselor 50 years earlier, he had cast the deciding vote against Earth. Now he came alone, without guards, to the heart of what many called the human empire. "Welcome to Earth, Supreme Counselor," Maria said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Zex Terrell studied her hand briefly, then took it in his 4-fingered grip. "Thank you for allowing this visit, President Collins." Inside the rebuilt United Nations building, the two leaders sat across from each other, while cameras broadcast the meeting to trillions across the galaxy. "The Galactic Council has existed for 10,000 years, Zex Terrell began. In all that time, we never faced a challenge like humanity." Maria smiled politely. "We never set out to challenge you." "No," the alien agreed. "You simply wished to join us. And in our pride, we rejected you." He placed a data crystal on the table between them. "This contains the formal recognition of the Independent Systems Coalition as the legitimate government of its member worlds, including Earth and all human colonies. The Council finally recognizes our right to exist," Maria observed. "After 50 years. We recognize more than that," Zex Terrell said quietly. "We recognize our failure." The Axorian looked out the window at the city below, where humans and aliens walked together in peace. "When we rejected humanity, we expected you to remain isolated and primitive for centuries. Instead, you reached out to other rejected species. You built something new, something better." "We had no choice," Maria replied. "Rejection forced us to find another way." "Yes," Zex Terrell agreed. "And now 1/3 of the Council's former members have joined your coalition. Another third maintain dual membership. The Council itself is—" He paused, searching for the word, "dissolving." Maria leaned forward. "That was never our goal." "Perhaps not, but it is the reality." The alien's large eyes studied her. "I came here today not just to recognize your coalition, but to ask if there might be a place in it for the remaining Council worlds." Silence filled the room. After 50 years, the tables had completely turned. Later that evening, Maria stood with John Miller on the balcony of the presidential residence. Though elderly now, John still served as an advisor, the man who had witnessed humanity's rejection firsthand. "What will you tell him?" John asked. "The same thing we've told every species that joins the coalition," Maria replied. "All are welcome as equals. No exceptions, not even for the Axorians." John smiled. "Even after they led the vote to reject us." "Especially after that," Maria said. "We're not building an empire based on revenge or dominance. That would make us no better than the Council at its worst." From their vantage point, they could see the lights of ships in orbit, vessels from dozens of species working and trading together. "The Council failed because it tried to make everyone the same," John observed. "We succeeded because we celebrated differences." The next morning, in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy, Supreme Counselor Zex Terrell signed the coalition charter on behalf of the Axorian people. No longer the rulers of a fading council, they would become just one more equal voice in humanity's growing alliance. As the ceremony concluded, Maria addressed the watching trillions. 50 years ago, we were deemed unworthy to join the galactic community. Today, we welcome the architects of that rejection as partners. This is not a human victory, but a victory for all who believe in cooperation over control, diversity over uniformity, and growth over stagnation. Across coalition space, beings of all shapes and forms celebrated not the fall of an ancient power, but the birth of something greater, a true community of stars where all could find a place. Rejected once, humanity had not just survived, it had changed the galaxy forever.